They really thought I was dumb enough to hand over a lakefront property worth millions because I bought it for a quarter, 25 cents. That was the price of the tax deed, and apparently in Delilah Thornfield's world, a blue-collar guy who works with his hands isn't supposed to fight back when rich people decide his land looks better with their name on it. The wild part is if I'd been even a little more tired, a little more broke, a little more scared, she probably would have gotten away with it. My name's Marcus Kane. I'm a plumber from Denver. I was 52 when this started. Freshly divorced, half numb, half angry, living in an apartment that smelled like microwave dinners and old regret. My ex-wife had taken half the savings, half the furniture, and somehow even half the air out of the room. You ever get to that age where your whole life doesn't exactly fall apart, but it feels like somebody quietly unscrewed all the bolts and now everything shakes when you touch it? That was me. So I started going to county tax auctions on weekends, just trying to find some wrecked place I could fix with my own two hands. My dad was a carpenter, old school quiet man, believed most things in life could be understood if you stopped whining and looked close enough. He used to say, "Most folks see damage, Marcus. Learn to see bones." That stuck with me. One morning I'm flipping through the auction list in this stuffy county room. Bad fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, people coughing, benches squeaking, auctioneer barking lot numbers like he's selling cattle. And I see it. Whispering Pines cabin, 15 acres lakefront, minimum bid 25 cents. I thought it had to be a typo. The photo looked like the end of the world. Roof sagging windows, blown out porch half dead. But lakefront in the Colorado mountains. Even ugly land like that is the kind of thing people with clean boots and trust funds fight over. Nobody bid against me. That should have been my first warning. A couple hours later, I drove up into the mountains, tires crunching gravel, and when Lake Serenity came into view, I actually laughed out loud. Not because anything was funny, just because it was too beautiful to belong to a man who'd been eating canned chili 3 nights a week. The water looked like polished glass, pines all around, mountains sitting in the distance like they'd been there before God finished the sentence. And the cabin, yeah, it was rough, but the logs were solid, the foundation was straight, the place still had pride in it. You could feel it. I was crouched down checking the base when this white luxury SUV rolled up like it owned the road. Out steps Delilah Thornfield's silver hair set like concrete expensive boots, pressed jacket, smile so polished it made my skin crawl. She introduced herself as the president of the Whispering Pines HOA, then looked at my tax deed like it was a child's finger painting. She said tax sales are cute, but they don't override community covenants. Cute. That one word told me everything I needed to know about her. Then she handed me this thick packet and said, my cabin violated community standards, needed to be demolished, and the land now belonged under HOA control. I told her the place was built decades before the HOA even existed, that it should be grandfathered in. She gave me this look, you know the one, that rich, patient look people use when they've already decided you're stupid. She leaned in a little and said, people like you usually find it easier to walk away. People like me. Yeah, that sat in my chest like a nail. I told her I bought it legal and I was fixing it legal and she could get off my property. She smiled wider, which somehow made her uglier, and said, I had 72 hours to reconsider before I found out how effective the association could be. That was day 1. Day 3, the harassment started. First came her nephew Bryce, the HOA compliance officer, which was hilarious because the kid looked like he'd lose a fist fight with a shower curtain. He wrote me a $500 citation because my truck was parked wrong in my own driveway. Next day, another fine because I used a saw at 9 in the morning. Then one for debris storage. Then one because I hadn't landscaped around a structure I was still rebuilding. Every slip of paper had the same message underneath it: we can bleed you dry before you even figure out what happened. And I'll be honest with you, for a minute there, it worked. I'd stand in that half-gutted cabin at night, pine smell in the air, busted windows rattling, and think maybe this whole thing was crazy. Maybe I was some divorced idiot with a quarter deed in a fantasy. But plumbers spend half their lives dealing with inspectors, permits, code books, and people who think a clipboard makes them king. So instead of folding, I went digging. County records office first. Basement room smelled like mildew and stale coffee. 3 hours of pulling old files and choking on dust, and there it was. The HOA had only been formed 8 years earlier. My cabin was built in 1962, pre-existing structure. That mattered. A young paralegal named Zoe at a cheap little law office confirmed it the next morning. She had tired eyes, fast hands, and the kind of student loan rage that makes a person very motivated. She told me the cabin had serious legal protection, and most of Delilah's citations were paper nonsense. So I filed motions, challenged everything, and kept working. At the same time, I started posting videos online, nothing fancy, just me cleaning debris, pressure washing logs, showing the place come back to life. And people loved it. I guess folks like seeing a broken thing get another shot. Comments started rolling in from all over. Some were just cheering me on. Some were tradespeople giving advice. Some were locals whispering what they were too scared to say out loud in town. Delilah had done this before. One note showed up under my windshield wiper that changed everything. It said, "Check the Kellerman property." So I did. It was an empty lot on Maple Ridge Road. Cracked slab weeds, old sign out front fading in the sun. That had been somebody's home once. I tracked down Robert Kellerman down in Durango, and when I said Delilah's name, the man laughed like it hurt him. He told me she'd harassed his family for 2 straight years with fines, permit, delays, bogus threats. They got buried in legal costs, sold cheap, and 6 months later, Delilah's husband's construction company flipped the place for a huge profit. That was the first real twist of the knife. This wasn't about standards. This was a business model. Then came the building inspector. He slapped a stop work order on my door over missing permits. Permits I had already filed. At the county office, a clerk found my applications shoved in the wrong folder. Misfiled, she said, like that sort of thing just happens by magic. Later, I found photos online of that same inspector playing golf with Delilah every Thursday. That's when my free legal help got a lot less free and a whole lot meaner. A retired judge named Harold Whitmore got involved after seeing my documents. Sharp old guy, drank strong coffee, missed nothing. He looked over the paperwork and said the inspector had a conflict of interest big enough to drive a truck through. Within days, the stop order got suspended. That should have slowed Delilah down. Instead, it made her desperate. A local reporter named Sarah Martinez called after my restoration videos started spreading. She had that voice journalists get when they smell something rotten and know it goes deep. She started asking questions, pulling records, connecting dots. Around the same time, donations came in from people following the story, enough that I could finally breathe without counting every dollar twice. For the first time in months, I thought maybe I had a shot. Then Delilah went nuclear. She accused me of fraud. Suddenly, I'm being served papers, told I'm under criminal investigation, hearing rumors that I tricked the court, lied on filings, stole the property. Flyers showed up around town calling me a con man. Fake reviews hit my plumbing business. Customers canceled. Reporters started sniffing around my ex-wife asking if I had a criminal past. One day, you're the guy fixing an old cabin. Next day, you're the villain in people's heads because somebody with money printed the first version of the story. That part got to me worse than the fines. Because when someone goes after your name, it crawls under your skin. You start hearing it in your own voice. You start wondering if the lie is going to outlive the truth. But while Delilah was busy trying to bury me in public, Harold found something she never expected me to learn. Her HOA had never been properly incorporated. Not correctly, not fully, not in a way that gave it actual authority. It looked official, sounded official, scared people like it was official. But legally, it was smoke in a blazer. Every citation, every threat, every collection notice worthless. More than worthless, actually. Fraud. And then, like the universe decided that still wasn't enough, I found the metal box. I was down in the basement knocking out a loose wall panel when my crowbar hit something solid. Inside that old rusted lockbox were the original deed papers, old surveys in one folder that changed the whole story, mineral rights assessment, geological records, estimates showing rare earth deposits under my property, lithium, copper traces of gold, numbers that made my hands shake so bad I had to sit down on an overturned bucket. Turns out that quarter deed didn't just buy me a busted cabin and a lake view. It bought me the ground under it, too. And suddenly Delilah's obsession made perfect 6 sense. Sarah's investigation hit the air that same week. She uncovered that Delilah's husband's company was drowning in debt, that they'd been hunting distressed properties, and that Delilah's father had old survey files showing those mineral records years ago. She knew. She had known the whole time. She wasn't protecting a community. She was trying to steal a winning lottery ticket by convincing me it was trash. That's when the whole thing flipped. Victims started coming forward. Officials started reviewing old HOA complaints. Federal people got interested. A private investigator uncovered embezzled funds, hidden debts, sabotage, all of it. Bryce got caught on camera vandalizing equipment at my site at 2 in the morning, glowing in infrared like the dumbest raccoon in Colorado. Then Delilah came to my cabin one night in plain clothes with a briefcase full of cash, first offering $500,000, then $1 million, begging me to walk away and forget everything. I recorded the whole thing. By then I had a choice to make. A mining company offered me a fortune for full extraction rights, enough money to solve every problem I'd ever had, and maybe the problems of people not born yet. But standing there by the lake, smelling pine and cold water, hearing loons off in the dark, I knew I couldn't turn that place into a scar just because greed had finally switched sides. So I chose a different road. Limited Extraction Conservation Trust. Public access jobs, preservation. Keep most of the land protected. Let the place heal more people than just me. Funny thing is, once I made that choice, I stopped feeling poor for the first time in years. Not because of the money, because I finally understood the difference between owning something and being owned by it. The end came at the monthly HOA meeting. Packed room, cameras, neighbors. Delilah up front trying one last time to play Queen of the Mountain, blaming me for chaos, for lower property values, for ruining the peace. Then I stood up calm as I'd ever been and walked everybody through it. The fake HOA, the fines, the hidden debt, the mineral rights, the bribery, the sabotage, the whole rotten chain of it. You could feel the room turning. People weren't just shocked, they were embarrassed. Because a lot of them had been scared of her for years, and fear always looks stupid the second the spell breaks. Then the doors opened. Federal agents walked in. I will never forget that sound. Not the agent's boots, not the crowd gasping, not Delilah's chair scraping back. The handcuffs, that little metallic click, clean, final, beautiful. They arrested Delilah right there in front of everybody for fraud, extortion, embezzlement, conspiracy. Bryce, too. She looked smaller in cuffs. Mean people usually do. A few months later, the cabin was restored. The trust was formed. The fake HOA was dead, and families who'd been pushed around finally started getting restitution. Sarah and I got closer through all of it, which I did not see coming, but life has a strange sense of humor. These days, she still chases stories, I still fix old places, and most evenings we sit on that dock while the sun drops behind the peaks and the water goes gold. Kids run the trails now. Visitors come through. The place that was almost stolen became something people can actually share. And here's the thing I learned too late, but not too late to matter. The most dangerous people aren't always loud, and they aren't always obvious. Sometimes they show up smiling, carrying forms, talking about order and standards and what's best for everyone. But if somebody needs you to feel small before they can win, they were never right to begin with. Delilah thought a quarter made me cheap. What it really made me was hard to scare. So let me ask you this: when somebody uses power paperwork, money, or status to take what isn't theirs, do you believe the only real answer is to crush them back? Or is there a line where revenge starts looking too much like the people who hurt you? Tell me what you think. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA bully, a crooked official, or a neighbor who thought they could push you off your own ground, share your story too.